bituminous and installing green space there. I would recommend some sort of rain garden or BMP as far as taking care of the stormwater runoff from the site.
Up in that
Probably in the
northeast part?
northern end of that green space.
Yeah, it all drains to the northeast.
Yeah. And maybe the watershed will recommend the same thing. And focus, as Mark mentioned, focusing more the decorative landscaping and screening
Yep.
at the southern half of that area. Question for you on the garage now. Seems like an awfully large structure. And is this gonna be just for the residents that live there, or are you planning on renting it out kind of as?
No, this is not, no, we're not, he is not at all, the owner is not at all gonna put other things in there other than what he owns or what the people in the apartment own. In other words, this is not for the public to come in and, you know, he's not gonna go rent out for somebody's, boat to come in here for the
It's not
winter.
any
No,
storage.
no, it's not at all.
Are they
And it-
individual doors type of thing? I mean,
Yeah, that's,
one of the things that I got confused with that, or I couldn't figure it out, is I understand about an inside garage so that there's five doors.
Right,
That somebody goes in.
which would be these
But then
here.
the big thing, is it just like a whole bunch of cars or trucks inside of a garage, or are those have doors too?
well, there's
No.
only one overhead door for what would be the western portion of that garage. So those five spaces here,
Yeah.
they correlate to
5 units.
the 5 units.
So 5
And they,
units, yeah,
and those
got
are,
that.
those are, this, I don't know why it's jumping sizes, but that's this part of the building.
And so they can go straight
They
in?
can go straight in those doors
Okay.
right there. And then this part has one overhead door in the middle that goes into the big space.
Okay,
And I don't know, there wouldn't be any other division inside of that.
No, if I think what might be confusing you is that to get it on a piece of paper, we had to cut it. So basically, if the upper level with the center the door is centered in there,
That's this across here.
right there, yeah.
So this.
Okay.
When you look at to the left, all you're seeing is part of it. When you look at the middle one, but the upper one is the higher level one,
Entire large.
with one door.
so the
We,
tenants could rent the space, but is there something that's marking, is there something that inside, I don't know, in my head, I haven't rented for a million years.
Mhm.
So it's like, and I was trying to think of, like, I have a friend who has a condo, and there's like, they do go into a big garage, but something says, here's her number,
Mhm.
and her number, and so that people aren't fighting over.
oh, yeah,
space.
that'll all be internal. That's
Okay.
not
But
a real
it
issue.
is one big,
But it is one big space, absolutely.
The thing for the city is we don't allow rental storage in this district, so it can't be used for rental. It could be used by the owner of the building, or it could be used by his tenants, but it
Tenants.
can't be used for any
Yeah.
other rental, right? He can rent these to his tenants, however that,
yeah.
Is
Well, even, I
done,
was
but-
even thinking of tenants, like, this is my space, get
Oh,
out of
yeah.
my space,
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly, we will have that marked out, yeah.
Okay.
well, and a
Yeah,
lot of
we
the-
don't, I don't think Mark wants to get the phone calls every day. Who's parking in my space?
That's right. Okay.
It is an interesting concept. What was the strategy kind of behind the single door versus 5 doors?
Well, first of all, the 5 doors are your typical smaller garages to meet the requirements of the code. If somebody's got a nice car and that kind of thing. But once you get into trucks, you have to make these garages. And if you all have a home and you have a big truck and you can't get it in your garage because it's really a car garage, that's what the whole idea of this for. And having a single space is pretty simple because now we can go to the right-hand side or we can go to the left-hand side. We can back out and come to the center. If you put 2 garage doors in, then you eliminate a tremendous amount of space they can use because you'll have to have a path then all the way around, from one door around to the other, and that cuts a tremendous amount of square footage use out of
So
it.
you have the clear height room, and it appears as though you've got the girth or the width of it.
Pardon?
Looks looks like you can accommodate the 5 doors, but you're just trying to minimize it a little bit.
Well, there are 5, so they've got the 5
I
here.
see that there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those would be associated each with 1 unit. By code, they have to have that indoor. He's building more than what's required,
That's that second building.
which is, could be additional storage that I'm assuming you can make money.
Yeah,
with,
and,
renting to your
Yes.
tenants that have more stuff.
And in my head, I have seen that, because like I said, I have a friend who, but it was like, and it was only because it wasn't there, it was like, how is it marked?
How is it organized? Yeah, and
Yeah.
I can see where, you know, if you do have it fairly full, and somebody that has something stored in the back corner, wants to get out, or get that material out, and there's something in front, you know, having more doors gives you more options to maneuver the space, but I guess that's kind of,
But it also starts to cut up the inside
it does, yeah.
space,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because then somebody can't park in front of the door and whatever, okay, that.
yeah, we'll have no parking in front of the door. The other thing is, while we're on this, definitely we're going to be putting the trash inside. We have found that,
Inside this building?
yes, we have found that over the time, that if you have the trash outside, you don't know who's filling it.
Yeah.
I mean, they come in with mattresses and stuff, and I mean, it just fills up. So this way we can protect it. They walk across the parking lot, put their trash inside. Then on the day of, let's say it's a Thursday, they wheel that out, that comes, they pick up the trash, come right around, and then push it back in. So we're definitely going to do it inside.
You talking individual small dumpsters per unit?
It's,
or is it
no,
large?
it'd be good-sized dumpsters. I can't tell you how many yards right now, but it would be a dumpster that would wheel in and wheel out, but it would be inside.
And it'll be the residential?
Recycling
Yes. Pardon?
and recycling?
Yes, we'd have 2. We'd have the recycling dumpster and the regular dumpster, but it's definitely going to be inside because we're on Highway 12 here, and we don't, somebody in a pickup can, I know that, I like these pickups, but somebody in a pickup to come in on an open dumpster, and they'll just throw all the junk in there, and they're gone in 5 minutes. And then all of a sudden, you got all these tenants coming out and say, hey, my dumpster's full. We've run into that, so we are definitely putting it inside. And that way, we don't have to deal with screening and so on.
Like a caretaker type of person that will come and take it in and out type of thing? or
No,
is
the
it
dumpster, you work out with them.
With them,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
So the trash company will have access in there, and they'll be responsible for.
Yep, pulling it out, dumping it. and
Not
so-
the residents. Okay. I read where in that building you were gonna try to save the bituminous or the surface of the existing
Mhm.
and use that. How do you plan on building the structure and leave the existing bituminous parking lot, if you will, as a floor?
Oh, you mean you're talking about in the garages?
Right, I read where you were gonna try to save the parking lot asphalt and use. that
Where was
floor.
that, is that on our drawing or is that on a note?
I think so.
Existing bituminous under 10,550 square foot of cold storage building shall remain. Do not remove.
Oh,
That's an old note.
that's an old note.
Okay.
Yeah, we're assuming that, yeah, they're cutting that out, putting in floors and whatever else for that new building. There was, that's a remnant from, concept plan where they were talking about having another building on top of these 2.
Yeah,
Oh, I see, okay.
No.
yeah, besides the garages.
Okay.
I would
missed that.
echo Mark's comments about the shrubs on that landscape side.
Yeah.
To group them together and have a mulched area that's separate from lawn. Maybe a much more successful landscape
And snow plowing,
and plowing it'll look better too.
something that we all know about now.
Yeah.
Did I understand correctly that within each of the apartments, they'll all be sprinkled?
Yeah, there's a sprinkler system already in the building,
It already is there?
yes.
Okay.
And then obviously we need to meet the sprinkling code by what we do with the various bedrooms and so on. So there will be some adjustment to what already is there. But it's already in And then we'll have to redo the sprinkler system to meet the proper rooms and so on accordingly.
Okay.
Approximately what size are these apartment square footage?
Square footage, let's see. Let's see, the building is, how long is that building? 74 feet, something like that? Each unit, or each of the major units, are approximately 74 times 30. These units are, I'd have to go recalculate, but just to answer your question in general, are very close to about 2,000 square feet a unit. They're not little units.
Okay.
Now, I could be off a few hundred here or there, but it's not a 800 square foot unit, no, by no means. There is one thing that was a report from the fire marshal that I think was in his first statement, and it is in here now, that we'd like to address. And that is, he said that the storage building and garages needed to be sprinkled. And this is under the requirement in Minnesota, the square footage for this building and its garages. So we really question that particular statement.
It's something we'll work
That's
on.
just a little, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do want to put it on record that,
Yeah, and that will all be a part
So
of
the
the
question
building
is
permit
whether or not
process.
building code requires that the garages be sprinkled.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's something that'd be covered with,
and according to our review, it doesn't, so.
Okay, all right,
That
fair
could be
question.
interesting in winter. It's a non-heated building. What good would the sprinkler system? It would be froze stiff.
Or it could be maybe a dry unit, but I think we'll clarify with, I mean, that's gonna be a code.
Yeah, no, it's a fair question.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. it's a fair-
Yeah, that's right, though. Wet would be bad in there.
It would look like the gutters of our houses, really.
Yeah, mine included.
Apartments are beautiful and lots of room in them. Are they, and I'm coming to this a little bit late, so the question might have already been posed at one point, but are these typically for single-family units, or are these units looking at multi-family units?
Well, I think it's going to be what the market bears here, but it's going to give that family that has 2 or 3 children an opportunity to get a nice housing that obviously you can see they got a living room, dining, open kitchen, sort of this will be a very modern look to it. And yet it gives them a chance to separate the children into the various rooms. So we expect that that's probably the area we'll go. Now, if somebody comes in and you've got 4 school teachers that just got a job out here and they're all single and they say, hey, this looks like a really cool pad for us, well, at least we're accommodating them with all our parking. So, but
Yeah,
we
and I
think
think-
it'll be multi-family, the
Yeah.
family.
And I had that, kind of the same question, because I think in particular because you're sitting like almost on the doorsteps of the plastics place,
Right.
for example. And lots of single young people. So it was, I mean, I think, I think your point of, yes, it would be wonderful for families to be able to have room for all their kids, but I also had wondered that, if it wasn't going to be more like, 4 or 5 adults that, are each, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrific concept. I guess.
Yeah, it's a little different than you normally see.
Yeah.
Wondering with all the additional pickup truck parking
Yep.
capability and sort of the flexible rental arrangement.
Well, you all know that if you rent an apartment, you never have enough storage,
Yeah.
right? I mean, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to meet the needs of today, not what somebody designed 20 years ago and said fit into it. Plus, I think one other thing that's really interesting is this is an iconic building. I mean, everybody knows it. It's the schoolhouse. And so, I think this apartment is gonna, because of what we've done, is going to get back to a status that, where do you live? Oh, I live in the schoolhouse. And I see that happening because it's gonna be really recommended to that. And when somebody goes to these apartments and visits somebody, they're gonna say, woof, when are you moving out? So I think that our concept, when Mark and I first went in there, we said, wow, can you see living in this place? And that's how it all started.
And if I'm looking at the plans correctly, other than the units that are in the basement, there's access in 2 different places. Is that
Yes, if you
correct?
look up in the plan up there,
Yeah.
there's stairs on both sides.
Yeah,
And so there's the unit on each side. The center of that big hallway that exists will be all the toilet areas.
yeah.
But you can access out of each unit, one on the north side and one on the south side.
Right.
Yeah.
Except for the basement, right?
Well, you could go both ways. The basement, you can come out and go to the left, or you can go to the right.
There's a common hallway in the basement,
Yeah, there's,
still maintained.
Yeah, and I see that, but out of the other apartments, you can go out of the apartment 2 different
Yes.
ways.
Oh, yeah.
In the
Yes.
ones in the basement, you're only going out one way, right?
but have an option of going 2 ways.
Yeah,
Once you
but
get
there
out.
you can go out that back stair or up the front stairs, but one door out.
I meant
Yeah.
from the unit itself, from the apartment.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
Why did you go with one laundry instead of laundry in each unit?
That comes from the experience of the owner. Laundry in each unit becomes a real nightmare.
I love mine. I have my own unit. And I much prefer that than the common one, so
You may have just lost a sale.
I already own mine. I
I-
can't afford more.
But we will take it in consideration.
No, I do like my own
Yeah.
Yeah.
unit.
Yeah.
And I like doing it when I want to do it.
Any other questions, or?
And it's my laundry closet is this wide and this deep. I mean, washing machine with
Dryer on top,
above it.
yeah.
Not single units, not the. I love it. After years of the laundromat,
Yeah. Other questions?
I have a question. Are you gonna cover up all the brick?
No,
No.
no, we're not gonna do anything to that brick.
I think this is a great use of the building. I'm thrilled to see it.
To answer a question, basically, that's all gonna stay the same. We are gonna change the color of the front entrance and do, some there, but basically, it's gonna, that brick is in pretty good shape. There's no reason to do anything with it.
That's for the.
And don't wanna paint the building, no.
No.
No, good.
Good, 'cause I like the way it looks.
I do too. I agree with you.
I think you guys have done a great job of thinking this through and right down to the trash indoors. Very
Cool.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's close the public hearing at 7:17.
You wanna come?
Can you come up?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Just because
Well,
we gotta.
Come on up.
Can you come up and state your name and the whole 9 yards thing?
I can't hear you.
I'm Mike from Total Auto Sales. I'm with Gary Keller in the building next to you. And wow, what an impressive, display of use for the city to have that availability. I just want to add a couple personal comments is that I kind of like that aisle where the trees are on the left, brings some nice little shade there. It's just kind of a personal thing, but, and cutting out that, if the city decides to cut out that drive, that shouldn't affect us at all because we don't really use that. The only thing I would say is you want to check with the mail service, because the mail service comes around front, and just to make sure, because they were upset because I've been plowing to keep it open for them to come there, and now I can't because the snow's so heavy, and they were a little, you just may want to check with the city and see how they want to do the mail service, because, that's just how they've been doing it, and they're used to doing it that way, so. Other than that, it just sounds like a really great idea. I'm excited with that, so that's all I wanted to add to that.
Thank you.
Maybe you could sell them a pickup truck.
Or 12.
Or, yeah, or 12, yes. Okay, well, if we, I'm guessing that you're looking for recommendations. What should we add
close-
if we
close
have
it?
other things? I
Yeah.
did close it, didn't I?
No.
Well, we let him come up, but now we close it.
Oh, yeah, close it at 7:19.
there is one other item.
Oh, yep.
Never mind. No, no, not you, come up.
We can still close the public hearing. You can come up.
Yes.
Yeah, it was closed.
Yep, 7:19.
Go ahead.
The only thing is, if we could go to the elevation on the north side.
Oh, of the building?
Yeah. On the north side of the proposed garages.
All right, hold on. My scaling doesn't like the.
In keeping with the theory of the city, is that they want the facades to match, the building. We have the brick and hardy board and color and so on.
Uh-huh.
So we thought, in keeping with the neighbors, and if you go to the other one, that we would like to put metal on the back, simply because it's in keeping with what you see back in there, instead of doing brick and hardy board for a deer to see. So that was the only other thing that we would like to, know, that it's really, nobody sees it, except for the
Nobody
garbage back.
sees it now.
Well, even then, go back in there and it sort of matches what's around there, is what I'm saying, versus.
And I understand what you're saying, but thinking of the future, and then also because of the fact that when we had that as part of the guidelines and is to have it match the structure, not necessarily thinking about what the other around them are doing. And I'm sure there's a few deer that might appreciate, a pretty line, but in keeping with what the building itself is, and for future.
Well, I wanted to bring it up because we had it on the plan.
It's fair.
So, fair enough. I mean, you can make your recommendations, but, we don't have to beat around the bush. You know why we want to do it.
Yes.
It saves a tremendous amount of money for that 200 feet back there versus putting all of this on there that sort of means nothing, or we think it doesn't. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Okay,
Just,
go ahead.
yeah, it begs a good question. Commission, or Chair, I think your point is wholly relevant, and that is, I was just checking to make sure I knew, but that property that is, so it's not maybe pertinent today, but that property to the north of that site and all the way around is all guided mixed use Bud Avenue. So just
Yes.
from a future perspective,
Yes.
we could have residents, we could have mixed use commercial, retail residents. So
Right.
it is, yeah, while it's today all commercial, industrial, it could be whatever other uses, mixed use. And that's kind of the vision we have, is that all gets redeveloped,
Right.
hopefully.
Yeah.
So,
And
to that
also,
point, but.
yeah, and
yeah.
also immediately, it should match the building. And I know that, I understand and appreciate the financial part of it, but it's also in my mind, at some point, some neighbor's going to be looking at something that's not good.
So is your recommendation that we have them change from metal to hardy?
Well, it's proposed as hardy right now.
Right,
They're,
they were proposing.
they're
to change it.
proposing to change it to metal.
So I'd like to keep it the way it is.
Yeah, it's proposed as hardy board, so, Chair, if I could, just
Go
the
ahead.
couple of points that I
That you had
heard
written
you,
down, and then
yeah,
Stefan, I think.
would be so the recommendation of the planning commission would be the recommendation that's in the staff report with the conditions there. Adding one condition that the applicant verify the survey and legal description of the
Yeah.
property. That would be D, so that would be 2D, so that would be prior to the city council's review.
Yeah.
We do that. And then what I would ask the planning commission for verification on is whether or not they would make a recommendation on the access point, that western access point, closed or open. And then I think you've spoken on the metal versus the hardy, but I mean, that would be at least part of the recommendation. And I don't know if there was other items. I think most of the other discussion points, the landscaping points, the best management practice, if you want to include that, we can include that specifically, but I think that's gonna be there anyway. And we'd write that in our recommendation, so I don't know if there was other comments, but those are the ones that I noted, at least during the discussion, that I think are outside of what I had in the
Yeah.
report.
Personally, I'd like to see them included. I mean, I know they're on the record, but.
Then I would add that as, I would add that the best management practices for the drainage, I would just add that to E. Let's just state it under two. We'll add E.
Okay.
Applicant to provide, or revise plans to address, or to provide best management practice in northeast corner for stormwater drainage.
Okay.
The landscape comments that we had in terms of the actual shrubs and other, front.
If you look at so I say that applicant shall revise the plans, revise landscape plan, and then to meet the comments stated in this report.
Okay, so.
And then I have if you're comfortable with those
Yeah.
detailed comments in the report that I made on the landscape, I think those are.
And then
there.
having, the plans be as updated, obviously, as possible. For example, putting the trees back, or making sure
Yeah.
that the trees, all of that's showing, just so that it's there.
And we say that they need to resubmit, so I think that would just be,
Cleaning
that would be
everything up.
in there, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure where you want to put the comment about making sure they have good ADA access.
Oh, that is one. I didn't get that. But I think we should add that as F, applicant, yeah. Provide,
However it's resolved, but.
yeah, provide ADA access.
Access route from parking stall to.
To
accessible
ramp.
entrance.
If you have, is the apartment itself then going to be designed and built for a handicapped person?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, absolutely, because that ramp is in there,
yes,
and why not?
okay.
Are there
good.
stairs?
You know, we'll make the bathrooms handicap accessible, you know, that will be a handicap, you know. And some of us, as we gotten older, I love those handicap bathrooms.
Yeah,
And so,
Yes.
yes,
Okay.
definitely, it would be handicap accessible, that particular part.
okay.
And there are no other interior stairs that will be a barrier to that?
No.
Okay.
It goes right up to that second floor. Their apartment is that whole
Good,
second floor.
good.
Might have to take into consideration the laundry.
Might have to.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So you want,
Use one of the
you want more
closets.
direction on the southwest drive?
Yeah, I'd like the planning commission to make a recommendation that would help staff, because like I said, we weren't, I don't think anybody has a real strong opinion. I think our take was leave it open because it doesn't benefit the Highway 12 access. So why not just keep a secondary access? A lot of times we're always asking for secondary accesses to our buildings and sites, and so.
Why do you think Justin McCoy put down to close it?
I think he was thinking that if there is some benefit to the Highway 12 access point was his initial. I had a conversation with Justin on it, but also that I think he just thought it would reduce people coming out onto the highway in 2 points.
Oh.
But
the other thing
but I don't know that it adds traffic one way or the other. I don't know.
It's really only a half an entrance. If somewhere down the road, the auto sales place sells and it becomes a different use, and they have a totally different driveway entrance, that driveway on the west side of the property line may go away, and then you're stuck with half a driveway on this side?
Well, I think if it went away, then we'd be able to close it, right? So
And they're not reliant on it, so.
they're not
Yeah.
relying on it, so I don't know that. Yeah, in the future, the other thing that I look at is, we a lot of times have good cross-access between, commercial retail uses, so I think that, given the size of that auto sales site, most likely, you can't always guarantee that, but most likely that's gonna get absorbed into that other property if you're gonna really redevelop something, right? I mean, if you're gonna redevelop that into mixed use, commercial, retail, residential, that little property. So then, now we're talking about potentially having almost like a frontage road maybe, or some other
Yeah,
means, which this site kind of sets itself up for pretty well.
yeah.
But it's,
I'm-
yeah,
6 of one.
6 and one,
dozen
half dozen
do
the
it,
other.
yeah.
That's what I think.
don't- Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and I was that way too, until we heard from a person in the public hearing. He brought up a point that I thought we missed, and that was the mail carrier. Now the mail carrier can come by, drop his mail off at the auto dealer, and come out. Otherwise, he's got to go in, come out, go on the traffic, in and out. And if that, in a simple way, can solve some problems, it looks to me that keeping it open makes a tremendous amount of sense at this stage. So that's all I wanted to bring up.
Okay. I don't have a strong enough feeling to vote for either one of them. Yay or nay, I personally.
Do we have input or opinion on emergency?
Justin, from
Well,
the
the-
fire
the-
department said close it, but
Yeah, I think once I had a conversation though, I mean, getting in there, you think about his apparatus movements coming in here and having to come around and then around versus kind of just being able to
go in.
swing in. And the other thing I think about is if there was some kind of a fire that was occurring in the front, you're gonna want, rather than pulling all your trucks in, you might want to have another,
Access.
I just look at the emergency service access,
Yeah.
if we ever had any kind of a situation at that building, being able to come in from
You
two
want
sides.
as much access
And
as
I think,
possible.
Steve noted it in his discussion, because all the parking's gonna be over here, 99% of your residents are gonna come in and out that. So I
Yeah.
don't know that this is gonna be highly or widely used. But, I think about if you were going eastbound in the morning and somebody was going westbound and they were parked in the middle of that, even though there's two lanes
You
there.
might go over to the other
Yeah, you
one.
might just go over here and just buzz
Yeah.
out if you're gonna go
Yeah.
westbound. So, there's a lot of different reasons, and if we could close an access on Highway 12, it'd be a no-brainer. We just close that off and say we can work with it. But because we're not gaining that benefit, then I don't know if today is necessary to close it. Maybe in the future we could close it if something happens with
Right.
that site
Or
adjacent.
if MinDOT tells you.
Or if
you have
MinDOT,
to.
yeah. I mean, I do
Just
think,
take the whole
I
thing
do
away.
think someday, long-term, well, look, this is not gonna be like this. It's
Yeah.
gonna be part of some other bigger development maybe, but.
Well, then, leave it. And, right now, if the only people or person really using it is the, post office, or, like you said in the morning, somebody, trying to go out, it gives the residents then another entry or exit, so leave it.
Easier to close them up, it's tough to get them back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is
That-
true.
That's
Exactly.
true. I mean, I guess there's really not much harm in leaving it, right, and then potentially some benefit. The only harm I can see is the encroachment issue. Because it is, the park lane's right down kind of the middle of the driveway. If there was some parking from the auto sales side that happened to encroach on the either side or vice versa, and could be potential for conflict there, because it's kind of a shared
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Did we have anything else that we wanted to add to the recommendations on page 8, other than what Mark had mentioned?
So I've
we've
got
a
D, E,
D
F.
and E.
And F. F is the ADA accessible route.
that's right. Thank
Between
you.
the accessible space and the accessible entrance.
Yeah, okay. Well, then, we would make a recommendation to do 1 through 4. I recommend that we go through with the update then. So if somebody wants to make a recommendation, to, a motion?
Need a motion.
Need a motion.
Motion. All right.
Motion to recommend.
I'll make such a motion.
Okay,
Second.
all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, excellent. Okay, thank you all.
So, yeah, this will be on the, March, city council,
Yeah,
March 25th. 25th.
What day is that?
That's a Monday.
Good.
It says,
Gophers will be in the NCAA the weekend before.
perfect, yep, so that one's at 7 PM on the 25th. We'll have this for the city council.
We'll touch base.
And we'll touch base.
Yeah, we'll get this all,
Mhm.
whatever your recommendations, we'll work with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Totally unrelated to this, but, when I saw this thing, one of the things that had happened at the time that they came, and by the way, that gentleman is the.
Yeah, he's our
the-
auto sales, yeah.
Yeah.
Mike.
And, but when we were, and I don't know when these pictures were taken, but wasn't part of the deal that they make these 2 lots, that little funny triangle and this, that it all becomes 1 lot?
They did clean that up.
Okay, then from Hennepin County,
Why is it not?
why is it still showing that? And you don't necessarily have to know that. I was asking in the sense that, because part of the deal was that they had to do that in order to make everything else follow through. And so I'm just asking to make sure
Yeah.
that all of that was done.
Yeah, we can follow up on that. I thought it was.
Well, I'm fairly confident, but you're right. It see, like
Not
even
showing
today,
up.
it's not showing up as a combined site.
This might be-
But
We can look, you can look
I'm
further
fairly
in there.
confident we recorded that.
Well, and.
Not me,
and-
but the city
No,
recorded it.
and that was a huge,
Yeah.
there were so many sticking points with that
Yeah.
stuff, and that was one of them.
That's a good point. We'll check
follow
on it.
base. and
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks,
see where-
thanks.
What the status is on that.
Okay, and I think I'm stealing their stuff.
Okay.
Then, I think that was all that we had.
That's it.
Now, do we not have to do the conditional use permit?
The motion
Yeah.
was inclusive, both,
Because you can't have one without the
yeah,
other.
site
Site
plan
plan.
approval and conditional use, yeah. Because those conditions applied to both.
Okay.
You talk about this
I do have a quick question
Yes.
about that,
Yes, we
since it
do.
didn't really relate to recommendation.
It doesn't apply.
Is that size of the garage like comparable to what we would grant a resident? Because it just seems really big.
It's big.
Like, okay, yeah,
It's
it
big.
seems really tall and like it's gonna be bigger than the apartment building.
You know, so I think there's 2 things here. These, I
Mhm.
mean, they kind of talked about it. So he owns another company.
Mhm.
He's gonna put some of his own stuff in there, is my guess. I don't know that, and we can't dictate that.
Yeah.
But that's what I guess. His original site plan had a larger than that, a detached accessory garage, separate 3rd cold storage building. That's what that note, and that was all the way along the eastern property line.
Oh, okay.
And we said, there's no way.
We nixed that one.
We said, there's no way.
Thank you.
So-
Because it would have been.
So that was, that's a remnant though, and I think he's personally looking for some garage space for his own use.
Mhm.
And it's probably okay, but I think he's gonna get some demand. I mean, I know,
Well,
I do
and
some
I
properties
wanna-
rental, and I think people are gonna jump on having more space than less. You know what those garage spaces
Yeah,
in
and
our.
I think for the residents of, the tenants, I think it's great. I think kind of being upfront, I have concerns because what they did with Acona, and
Yeah.
we agreed to, they're not necessarily following.
Yeah,
Okay, and so now there's this big to-do, so if it's part of them and we've said, you're not renting it to anybody else? No, okay, If we find out somebody is renting to somebody else, then it becomes one of those things where they're going against the conditional use.
And I think that's what we have on this, which is good, is we have the conditional use for the detached accessory garage.
Right.
And I feel anyway, the city has some then ability to revoke,
Okay.
right? Even
Well-
though it would affect the use as multifamily, but they would then
Well,
clean that up,
We would
right?
put the fine schedule in, I'm assuming, with the
Yes.
conditional use permit.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So we will, probably, now that we're gonna start putting all that stuff together for city council, we'll
You're gonna wanna
include the fine
put
schedule.
something with some tooth in it. That's why I asked my question of what the strategy was with that building.
It's gonna be
There's more
rented.
going on.
Yeah.
than-
Yeah, it's gonna be rented
Right.
to, Five
Yeah.
Guys from the plastics place,
Right.
and.
We
in
know
one-
that.
In one of the
And
apartments.
I think
yeah.
if you do rent
But
the
you
5
can't-
bedrooms,
you
right, or
can't-
the 4 bedrooms, then, I mean, there's nothing that says you can't rent, I mean, a lot of our apartments probably have 2 tenants, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
or
I
3
mean,
tenants if they have a
no.
3-bedroom,
Well,
right?
and you can't dictate.
But so then I think that bigger garage space is gonna be in demand if he's willing to rent it
Yeah.
for his units. Now, if he's
And-
gonna keep it for himself and he's gonna store his hot tubs in there, which is what his business is,
See,
he's.
that's what concerns me, is that it's just one big building,
Yeah.
and so, yeah.
The
I don't
5
know.
spaces comply, this is a way that he's getting some storage space on his own. It's up to the city ultimately, if you say, no, we don't want it, just build us 5 little spaces.
Yeah.
And more outdoor parking. The one thing that's nice, in theory, whether it's him or the next guy, is you could put a lot of storage in there, so, if somebody's got boats, trailers, we're not gonna see them, which I think would
Yeah,
be a
that would be
benefit,
nice,
but
yeah.
we can't really dictate to him who or what he
He does
rents
with it.
Right.
that space to,
Right.
if he wants to use it personally. I don't know that we have anything that says you can't own
No.
that
What is
building.
this business?
He owns Jacuzzi, the dealerships
rents?
in Minnesota.
He rents or sells jacuzzi?
So-
Yeah, he's got like the brand name Jacuzzi, but he
Mhm.
has Jacuzzi sales showrooms around the Twin Cities. He's a property owner though. I mean, he's an investor. He owns
And that
other
doesn't get on the
rentals.
verge of retail.
He had no intent of retail. This would be, he would store hot tubs in there that he's selling out of his other businesses and he's got other storage space. He owns property.
So
I
at
mean,
least,
this guy's,
there will be commercial traffic coming in and out.
I-
He's hauling tubs in and out.
if he is, we don't know that. He said no,
He
he's
just
gonna
said
get
he
rid
was
of that
storing
whole thing.
tubs.
Well, I guess I'm just saying, he had another building where that's what his intent was. We told him that doesn't work. You can't have that big separate building. But now whether he takes this portion of the garage and gives it to his tenants, or takes it for personal use, or takes a portion for personal use, I don't know that we have huge authority, but I guess if he starts bringing heavy traffic in and
Well, we would have
out,
authority to start asking questions.
we could ask
It
questions.
really wouldn't be personal use, it'd be business use.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, but it's not rented, right? He owns it, so it
Right.
wouldn't be rental space, it would be
Yeah.
his own company space.
Yeah,
And
but then as business traffic, as Mike mentioned, you might have delivery trucks and whatnot in and out of there, which is a different use than
So we've
residential.
asked him the question, he says no. I'm just saying, I think there is a,
Well, and you have
it's a
to
big
take-
space, right?
you
So
have
you're
to take
going,
people
wow, that's a
at
big,
their word, like
big
we did with
space."
the Acona guy.
Yeah.
And then when you find out something different, then you keep asking the questions.
Take action then.
Yeah.
Because we had an agreement in good faith and in writing and hello, kind of thing. And if there is a lot of traffic that way, you'll eventually see it. And,
It's one of the concerns we had with this right away was,
Yeah.
and then the 3 buildings, it was a problem. We
Yeah.
just were like, you can't, if you wanna put a retail outlet in, that's a permitted use. So you could put a retail storefront and have warehousing in the back. That is a permitted use on that site. But I think he would do that, but the utilities and like, just the logistics to tear that all up, redo the utilities, cause he'd have to provide bathroom and,
Yep.
all that stuff. He said it's just cost prohibitive. So I think he looked at it for that use, but he ultimately decided no, so that now it's part of the residential building. I agree with your your perception, which is, it's a big extra space there. What is that?
I like that it's in the back.
Which is what we
um,
told him, put the big space
Yeah.
behind the building, best
And-
case scenario.
And I can understand, a space being usable by tenants if something's marked. That's why I was a little curious, like, well, you haven't thought about that, like marking it off?
But he's
kinda
talking
thing?
about putting the trash in there, which is, so now he's gonna have some of the multifamily use in that building.
Building, yeah, so
I think
peop-
there's a huge demand. I think
Yeah.
people will eat up that space.
Oh,
and
they will.
He'll be able to rent it
Right.
as
yeah.
extra for
You
some
know,
pretty
I think of
decent
the,
income.
the duplex behind me, at the end of the summer season, a boat showed up behind they have like a big acreage, or lots of lot.
Yeah.
But the boat is behind their garage, so I get to see it
Yeah.
all winter, all covered in plastic, and so it would be
Or
nice.
snow.
I do
Yeah.
agree, though, that the size does seem pretty massive
Yeah.
for the scale of the whole site,
Mm-hmm.
in relationship to the building, to the apartment building.
Yeah.
But
Just
it'll have
something.
hardy board on the outside.
Well,
Well,
yeah, I mean, maybe it'll have some more value tax base. I mean, I think your concern's good.
Yeah.
I just don't know what you do, right? Say, hey, are you really using this, or are you gonna use it for yourself,
Yeah.
or are you gonna rent it? It's
Well,
gonna be
yeah, and I didn't want
tough-
to ask that because it's like, he's not the owner.
Well, he was
He's the
sitting there,
architect.
though.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Okay.
That
'Cause
was
he
the
said
other
he was here
guy.
on behalf of the owner, so I was like,
Oh,
oh,
no.
okay,
No,
so.
he
Mark
was
was
sit- he
here.
sitting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've talked to him. I mean, we've met with him how many times? 4 times. And, you know, we got rid of the cold storage. We just said that doesn't work. You can't do that. Whether he's going to attempt to store some things in this building or not, I don't know. I think, you know, you make that a condition.
Yeah.
It's a very fine balance, because he's either thinking about doing this or just renting out the building as it is.
Yeah.
To,
I
You
do
know,
think
company,
boats,
so-
fish houses, trailers, snowmobiles.
Yeah.
I mean, you get
if
5
they-
units, you
right.
could make, you know, an extra
And I'm,
couple $1,000 a month off of that
Right.
space if you
and I'm
rented it
kind
to
of
your
betting
tenants. But
that they're going to have to put something over the bituminous.
we
and-
do too.
Oh, for crying out loud, get a grip.
That's why my
so
condition was
he's going
crafted
to
the way it
have
was.
to, he's going to have to rent to his renter, or to
To
the
make some money
renters,
to pay
to
that
make
back.
some money to pay for all the bituminous. that
Well, and
they're
if you
gonna
look at
have
his
to put in.
interior renovations, they're pretty substantial. I mean, that's a
They're
big,
huge.
Yeah, that's a big undertaking.
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah, the apartments look great. I mean,
Yeah,
to me, it's a
And
great
I think
use.
that is a great need.
that
You don't
larger,
find large apartments.
No.
right?
Do you know
And
what the
if they
price
are
range is?
around
Are they going?
2,000 square
they
feet.
did not tell us the
Yeah.
price range.
By
I
the
think we
market?
asked, but he doesn't know yet.
Okay, yeah, 'cause that.
He's
Yeah,
I mean,
that's-
like I said, he is an experienced landlord, though.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what he has exactly. I know he has I know he has some property, like quite a
Okay.
bit.
Well, it'll be interesting.
But we'll get
I
that
like the
conversation
idea
at the
that they're
council.
using
I
the
think that's
building.
I think it's a good comment. I mean, that's our question. So
Yeah. I like that the building will be used again.
Yes.
I just,
And yet stay the same.
yeah, kind of on the outside, yes, and, you know, it's a recognizable thing, but I just, having, you know, lots of empty space, or empty buildings just always seems kind of
I'm
sad.
tired of them.
Yeah,
And more residents entices more business, so.
yeah, yeah. so-
and some of the other uses we saw for that building were not great. I mean, we had dance halls, we had
Oh, seriously?
wedding venue building, or, you know, use of that. More office, but then really just kind of bad office space. So, I mean, we've seen a wide gamut of things, and I don't know that any one was great or better, but from a, like, say if you look at traffic, on Highway 12, this is gonna have less traffic than, say, a wedding venue would.
Yeah,
Or something like that, so I think it's an improvement.
So,
Surrounded by industrial,
yeah, and a car lot.
Yeah, but you know, we're talking about one across the street on Spring Avenue. That property, that guy's looking to do residential redevelopment of that vacant land that we looked at where the dog groomer wanted to
Yeah.
go, you know?
Yeah,
They've actually acquired the house behind that property now,
Oh.
so they're actually looking at
Got the motel for your wedding guests.
Yeah.
honeymoon
you mean, you don't do
I don't
what
know
I
if that
do
is
with
the
my-
wedding venue we want.
Yeah, when my family comes for, every 2 years for, our reunion, they always say, well, isn't there a little place in town, you know, and no,
There
no.
isn't.
None of my family is staying there. No, you're not gonna go
So-
there.
Now, does the city reply to Claire Rude? Claire?
Yeah, Claire.
Yep.
You know, and say, yes, this does meet our,
We just took the letter. We could, if he wants to talk about it, we'd certainly tell him that it meets the
Yeah,
ordinance.
Clearly.
He doesn't obviously know that his property's zoned mixed use, but.
but I think that that would be
Yeah, we can certainly,
He's not the easiest person to work with, I
Yeah.
know. But I think if a nice letter went to him saying,
sure, yeah, we can,
instead
I
of just
Tell
ignoring
him,
That's a
it.
good
tell
idea.
him, tell him it was read into the record.
yep, we'll
Yeah.
acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
thanks for your, yeah.
Thanks for your letter. All right,
Yes,
anything else?
I don't think so.
All right, we should,
vote it.
all you gotta do is adjourn.
Oh, this one too, for the, wait, hold on, I forgot who did it, Mary Miller. She obviously missed the public hearing way back, and I think that actually all of these things had been taken into consideration as well.
Yep, just to follow up, I spoke with her, told her that, you know, just make it clear that we have a noise ordinance,
Yeah.
and that we'll, you know, relay and work with the brewery as they're starting their operations, just to, you know, be considerate of the neighbors and just kind of remind them about the noise ordinance. And that's just what she was kind of asking, just to have them
Yeah.
aware of that, so we're
And-
gonna.
And we've already, it's also a part of what they're doing is that they can't have events or do something in that space
Right.
without having special permits anyway. So
Right.
it's not like, you know, there's going to be a concert sitting out there or, you know, whatever
Correct.
either. So all of that had been taken care of.
Yeah, I think her
Correct.
concern is the,
Noise
she's
from
coming
inside coming outside.
Excelsior next to that brewery, and they hold their Oktoberfest, they hold their Lake Days Fest, they hold their Apple Days, and they always get a tent, a band, right? And that's her fear, is that this is going to be equally as successful in doing those things. And we said, that's not a part of what we're considering under the conditional use, or under the site plan review.
Right.
Or now conditional use, which is what that is. But they could, nothing's gonna prevent the brewery, if it's successful, or if they're trying to do events, to say, city council, can we get a large assembly for a Oktoberfest
Yeah.
tent?
Yeah.
So it may not fully address her concerns if the city were to at some point say, boy, this is a great business and there's a ton of people that come here and we wanna allow them.
But I think
a
looking
couple
at,
special events.
looking at an event, you know, that happens
Mhm.
at one point.
Yeah, versus
is-
every night.
Versus every night is a completely different thing. I think most people can kind of understand that. Well-
So on that one, where is that address? Across from the,
She's in the home in the new development behind the bank on that corner.
that's Oak Street?
Yep, that's the private Oak Street.
Yeah.
Okay,
So she's one of the closest houses to the
Yeah.
brewery,
Right behind.
Future
yeah.
Brewery.
okay.
Good. Well,
That's
should
the
we
Oak Street address threw me off.
Yeah.
entertain a motion to adjourn?
I've been all motion so far. I want to, let somebody else.
Would you like to?
I'll make a motion
to
to
adjourn.
adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Good. Thanks, everybody.